This film, off script, all this off script, all just from memory from the thousand times I've seen it. This film opens up with a great scene, such a beautiful scene in cinematic history. Gareth Edwards directed this film beautifully, with many artistic shots and many just cinematically beautiful, amazing, stunning shots. We arrive in Gojira, a fantasy city in Japan, and it's the Bryan Cranston's birthday. Joe Brody, as he goes in the film, and all he cares about is work, and his son and his wife are trying to sneak stuff for him for his birthday and stuff, and he just kind of ignores all of it. I believe when we go outside, his mom takes him to the bus and tells him goodbye and stuff, and his dad just is on the phone constantly. They work at a power plant, and even when they get in the car and stuff, and his wife's like tells him, happy birthday and shit, he goes right back to his discussion about work. It's all about work and stuff. He doesn't put his family first. He puts his career first, which leads into stuff in the future that when they get to the plant, it makes the scene a lot more impactful, because something goes wrong with the plant. Seismic waves start acting up. It's nothing normal like an earthquake or something. His wife heads in to check it out with some other workers, and there was a breach, and basically something's off, and everyone's evacuating, but Joe Brody wants to go save his wife, who, on his birthday, who, earlier in the film, it almost seemed like they didn't give enough appreciation. He didn't appreciate what they were celebrating enough, which leads into the scene where he's trying to save his wife trying to survive, but in the last second attempt to save himself and the city, he has to breach it off, and he has to watch painfully as he breaks down with some of the most amazing acting in the 2010s, this decade, of just Bryan Cranston and his wife. I completely forgot her name, but their acting in the scene is amazing as she fades away, and we have to sit there and watch this heartbreaking scene of Bryan Cranston just breaking down as a human being. We see how he acts later on in the future, and it just breaks him as a man to watch his wife go, and it all seems like, he puts blame on himself. He has to prove that it's not his. This just was not something natural. This film is brilliant with this whole storyline they set up for him. And a lot of people think it's ruined later on, but in my opinion, it really doesn't. And, it cuts to who becomes the main character for Brody as a child. As school gets ready to evacuate, he watches the plant that both his parents are in just break down. You don't know what's going on in that scene for him. You have no idea how he emotionally acts. And the next thing we see is him open up with a similar face in the modern day, 2014, coming out of an airplane as a soldier. It's very likely, with the context we're giving, that he probably also kind of went through a breakdown in a way, similar to his dad. Nothing's confirmed. I haven't read the novel. The novel probably gives more details to this, because the novel gives some really good detail of certain things. But it's possible. It seems highly likely that he took this path as a military to kind of just escape his built-up emotions and stuff. He comes back to his wife and kid, and I think it's all good acting here, personally. He seems like he's genuinely having a good time with his wife and kid. He's smiling, he's charming. He doesn't seem like a robot. He seems genuine with his emotions when he's with his family. He does seem kind of upset whenever they find out his dad's in prison, and he has to just, as soon as he got home to see his family, he has to go get his dad in Japan. And I think this scene is pretty genuine. He's a soldier. While yes, soldiers do have emotions, he has this built-up coldness kind of in him from the way he's presented. And it could just be Gareth Edwards wasn't the best at directing or something. It was like a more European director with a more European actor, because I don't know their exact nationalities, but I know they're not from America. And to me, though, the acting in this scene, it's fine. It's good. You know, it's not no Oscar thing, but no matter what you do here, you know, the way it's written, you're not going to get an Oscar performance. And that's not the script's fault, but it's setting up for future stuff. That whenever he gets to Japan, he has to save his dad, or he has to get his dad out of there. And immediately his dad puts him in this uncomfortable position to where he has to be forced to face his past again with his dad. His dad tries to tell him he's not crazy. Bryan Cranston does an amazing performance. Aaron seems, you can see it in his face at some points as he's trying to hold back his emotions. We see him break down a few times throughout the film and him holding it back, but stuff like that was never enough for people. But it's really beautiful how, like, they're kind of, you can kind of see them butting heads with their different personalities. Aaron Taylor Johnson, or Ford Brody, is a soldier with a family now, and he's trying, you can tell he's kind of gotten in the way, he's kind of gotten over his past, but his dad hasn't. You know, his dad still wants to prove all this, and that he's not insane. Something did kill his wife, something did cause the seismic waves. You see it everywhere, there's stuff all over the walls, you know, you see everything everywhere, you know. It's not, he's determined to prove that his wife didn't die from just some earthquake, some typhoon. And he ends up talking to Ford and ends up agreeing to just quit this crazy, like, witch hunt mystery thing that he's doing. And the next morning he ends up breaking it. You know, he's doing echolocation, and he's finding out all this stuff that foreshadows the rest of the movie. It becomes such an important part to the rest of the movie in the Monsterverse. What Joe Brody does then aids the future as we learn about the characters and the monsters they hear later on. What his learnings do at this point in the film that he demonstrates as a character still comes back later on in the film, you know, whether he's mentioned or not. It gets to a point, though, where he talks Ford Brody. Joe Brody talks Ford Brody, and coming on this crazy mission with him to find his mom. He finally gets his son to agree to go back to their old home. And in the process, this is one of the highlights in Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance to me. When you see his eyes start turning red, you can see him kind of sniffling, his voice changes you can hear the sadness in his voice, and you can start seeing, like, tears forming up in his eyes to some extent. He doesn't break down, he doesn't start crying, it's nothing like his dad's done at this point, but it's just beautiful because you can tell he's trying to escape this past, but you can tell he's never gotten in the way. You know, it seems like this that kind of determined what direction his character was taking. Now, we weren't there to determine it, but, like, it's a scene like this where Joe Brody is able to get his son to the point where he's crying, you know, like he's holding back tears, a big army soldier. And they go into the city of their old home of Gojira. They go into their home, they find tapes, you know, there's some cool little Easter eggs throughout, you know. I do definitely believe big time that Gareth Edwards was a big fan. Obviously not like Michael. I mean, there's no way to compare it. You know, it could be, they could be the same level, but Gareth actually wanted to make a movie, and Michael just wanted to make, you know. But it's the same where, like, Gareth Edwards filming and stuff. There's some beautiful scenes. Like, there's this long shot that shows the power plant and stuff, and the destroyed city and stuff, and they get there and they find out it's already a lie. That's a big red flag right there. There's no radiation in the city at all, and they've been telling people for years it's like Chernobyl. It's a death zone, you know. And they get in their house, they get the files and stuff. They go out, they look at the helicopters, and you know, while he's in there too, his dad kind of also sees old pictures of his wife, and he sees the happy birthday banner that they set up for him, you know, before everything happened on that day. And it's a really emotional scene of him realizing just, you know, he's got to face his past again, you know. He has remembrance of the exact day all these events happened. He has all the tapes from the events that they happened, all of his learnings. And just a simple happy birthday, you know, that's up there that we saw at the beginning of the movie, you know, comes back to in full circle as we get close to bringing Joe Brody's character to a close. And they get captured and they go into the power plant, and we meet Ken Watanabe's character, Dr. Serizawa, and then Dr. Grant. I probably didn't say that right. And some other characters that are nameless to me. I don't necessarily think they really appear after this. And they get in there and they see there's something there. You know, his dad's trying to prove there's something. Joe Brody's trying to prove there's something that killed his wife. It wasn't just some natural disaster. They get in there, the first thing you see is this cocoon, like, egg thing. And, like, that right there is already, like, proven it. And he gets in there. They interrogate Joe Brody. And one of the best acted scenes in the movie, also, with Bryan Cranston. This dude is amazing with his role, where he's being interrogated as they go through his files and stuff and see that, wow, you know, he has some really good teachings, and he just gives such an emotional, amazing speech that, honestly, it just, by the time that the Muto starts breaking out and all the EMP stuff goes on and they have to go out there, you know, Joe and Aaron, you know, in their final moments, you know, before Joe dies, Aaron finally gets to learn his dad wasn't crazy. Because in such an amazing shot scene with some of the best music on the soundtrack, in my opinion, we see the Muto scene where the Muto breaks out, the male Muto, the Hawk Muto. Such a great scene. Oh my god, I love this scene whenever like, you see them start shocking it, trying to kill it. It's slowly falling apart. It's using the EMP. Muto breaks out, starts destroying stuff, EMPing stuff. They kind of bring it down. He gets up still somehow, starts stepping on people. It's such a great shot where it's like low angled and stuff. And, you know, you're at the people and you see people get stepped on everyone. That's the beautiful cinematography in this film. It brings weight to these creatures. This film brings so much weight and power to these creatures. It's like you feel that. It feels real when he's just walking around stepping on people. Aaron's in the crossfire. Ford. Joe Brody's in the crossfire. Joe's on the bridge, and he ends up being on it at the wrong time. Because Muto breaks it, and he ends up falling, and it kind of leads to his death, per se. I don't think it's the exact reason, but they end up, after this event, the Muto escapes, and like I said, one of the best shots, one of the best, like, scenes in the movie. And you see the aftermath of the attack, people just dead everywhere. Ken Watanabe's, like, whole staff is dead, and that's when the military steps in and starts to take over the mission. And you know, it's like Bryan Cranston or Joe Brody is one of the last people left, and it's at this point that Ken Watanabe sees that this isn't just some crazy dude. You know, not that he knew him and not that he thought he was crazy before, but it's like, you know, he saw that this guy he knew what was going on before anyone else knew. Somehow, Joe Brody, with all of his research over the 10-year period, I believe it was, or 15-year, he just knew what was happening. He knew everything better than any of them could. And so they're going to put Joe Brody in a car and take him to the hospital. And you know what? It could have potentially saved his life. But instead they put him on a helicopter, which once it starts flying and stuff, you know, I don't know if this like cases in the past or not. I feel like this has something to do with his death, though. Just like when they took him on the helicopter stuff, and he didn't get the correct medical treatment, and then with a great speech as his final thing, he dies, and Aaron starts having a breakdown, and you know, it cuts away before we can really see it. We see Aaron grab his head and just start like going back and forth real hard, you know, with his hands and stuff on his head, and it's like, damn, you know, some of these scenes, you know, you give the guy hate or not, he has some well-acted scenes in the movie, for sure. You know, I still think he did some great acting in this film. There's some parts where he doesn't, like, you know, he doesn't do the best acting, I guess. But, like, scenes like this, he acts great, you know, especially his whole dynamic with Joe Brody, his father and son, going through the same tragedy and splitting off and becoming two separate characters with different personalities completely. It's great. They worked so well together in the first act. So great. Ford acted so well. Aaron Taylor Johnson had great chemistry with Bryan Cranston, in my opinion, in these scenes. You may disagree with me, but I personally think he did well. Really, his peak of his performance was his scenes with Bryan Cranston, for sure. And Bryan Cranston, basically, who proved himself as not crazy, gives his final speech to tell Aaron to protect his family. And that's kind of when it becomes Aaron's mission to get back home and not let the same fate happen to his family. But that kind of builds throughout the film, which is great. I do think Ford Brody and this whole story is really, really, really well written drama. And we kind of see completion of Joe Brody's character. A lot of people claim he never even met Godzilla and stuff. He didn't have to. This was supposed to be Ford Brody's movie, and all Joe Brody needed to prove and everything was done. His mission was complete. He completed his goal, showing he was not crazy, proving it to his son and the rest of the world that he knew what happened, and basically his sacrifice wasn't in vain. It helped with the military and everyone else throughout the rest of the movie. Some of his teachings, learning of echolocation and stuff, and learning more about these monsters. That was the biggest help. But what he did was not in vain. He proved to his son that all he spent most of the past 15 years of his life, or however long, doing was just simply working towards something. Then the end was right. He wasn't crazy, and he proved that his wife something killed his wife and Ford's mom. He proved that to his son, and he perished with the knowledge of knowing that he proved he was not crazy. And like I said, this leads for Aaron's character to take over as Ford Brody and to basically restart the whole family dynamic from the beginning, except this time he's going to be there for his family. Joe Brody, who seemed more towards work, ends up regretting it and wishing that he could have been there for his wife and stuff, which is very powerful. Restarts the cycle, becomes a Ford who cares about his family and wants to get back home to him. But they have to go in this room, and that's when we learn about Godzilla's presence and stuff, and Ford doesn't know anything about it. He kind of remembers some stuff that his dad talked about, which helps a little bit. And that's when stuff happens. Ford's going to go back home. He's at El Hawaiian Airport, and he's going to go back home to see his family as they hunt for the male Muto. And the male Muto begins destroying all these jets and stuff in the forest, because he has a nuke, I believe, at this point, or something like that. And cause he took a submarine, and I think a nuclear submarine out of the water, and he just ends up, he's eating it and stuff and feeding, and the military tries to attack him. We have this great scene, from both the human POV as they're on the ground, showing how massive the Muto is as he moves his legs, and it looks like it's part of a tree or something, and it's his arm, and he takes all these planes and stuff, and he impedes the whole city. And then, we get this also great scene with some of the other best music in the film, where the tides start going back into the water, and the military's like, there's a bogey coming. And that's when Ken Watanabe's character, Dr. Sarazawa, was like, I have to see this. And they're like, do you think, it's like, it's him. And you go out there in binocular stuff. We get this this impactful, beautifully shot, just amazing, well done, both cinematography, just the score, the effects, all of it perfect, as number one, the spikes get revealed coming in the water. And then a big shot of that, he looks massive, all the spikes, goes under the boat, comes up, his body's so massive, and the music stuff, that he causes a tsunami in Hawaii that destroys the city, and just makes him feel like such a god with his presence and stuff. Such a well-made scene in this amazing movie. When he appears, we get the flares and stuff, people coming in, the gunshots and stuff, and he just vanishes. The Muto ends up attacking the airport and stuff that Ford's on, because the bridge ends up coming back on. And Ford's with this kid, from this Hawaiian kid, or Asian kid, who kind of gets separated from his family. He was gonna get him back, before he even got back to his family. But he was being a nice, human being, and he ends up saving the kid's life as a male Muto in a great action sequence destroys it. The Muto always looks so massive at this point. We don't get to see Godzilla fully, and the Muto himself just looks gigantic. All these shots, such great effects. The Muto looks amazing. He destroys the train. People are kind of dying out of it. Ford saves the kid. The Muto's destroying it. I see a human standing there. Water comes in. We see just the male Muto, just some helicopters going after him, and then spikes come up and hit him, and they hit the male Muto, and causes this domino effect where all these people in this airport are just screaming in terror and stuff. The male Muto just destroys everything. Then all you see is Godzilla's foot come in and stomp, and just goes quiet. Everyone stares in awe at this godly presence standing before them as Godzilla is just standing before him. The male Muto turns around and looks up high and roars at his arch rival as slowly the camera pans up with this amazing scene with music, and it seems silent, and we got the choir, them doing their thing, and these explosions going on around Godzilla not hurting him. Slowly pans up, revealing his entire body to his face. Gives this epic roar with these beautiful effects and scenery, and just the scene. The airport scene is genius. It's so amazing. It's such a great scene. If you have not seen this scene or anything, or this movie, this is the one scene you have to see from it, where just Godzilla's reveal. So perfect. And then the cutoff happens, and a lot of people hate this. I'm not the biggest fans of some of the cutoffs in the movie. We get to see a little bit of the fight, get that "oh mommy dinosaur" scene in the movie and stuff. But the main reason I'm okay with this cutoff is I understand they wanted to keep some surprises for the end, which they did. Amazing final battle. We'll get on to that. And they had to keep something for the end, so they were just going to let us tease a little bit longer. I'll deal with it. We get great shots of Godzilla swimming towards, the following the male Muto and stuff, and Ford trying to still get back home. He's in destruction. He sends the kid back. He wants to go home. He finds out there's a military mission going on, and as if he feels obligated to as his job, he's seen how powerful these things can be with his first hands. As a soldier, he goes through with it, and he comes with them on this mission as a soldier, because in the end, what he does on this mission ends up saving his family too. A lot of it here. There's many great shots that happen. We get Godzilla, like I said, swimming. Great shot. Ken Watanabe arguing with the military general and stuff about the fact that they want to use a nuke on the monsters. He does not think it's a good idea because of stuff that happened in the past, such as an Awakening, the comic book, where the nuke did nothing to Godzilla at all. It would just cause more damage than anything. And Godzilla's been shown to survive them. And then because Ken Watanabe pulled out his watch, he doesn't believe in it. Dr. Serizawa. We get the great scene of Ford Brody and all of his military soldiers on the bridge. Actually, I'll come back to that. We get the female Muto's reveal, which isn't the best. It kind of comes out of nowhere. I won't lie. They just kind of oh, wait, what's going on? There's a female or something? They go into saying, look, it's, Las Vegas, just getting destroyed by the female Muto. It's just kind of I think it's Las Vegas at least. It's just kind of out of nowhere. She doesn't really have any build-up. She was kind of just there. She was the one that was kind of kept as a secret leading up to the film. She was just kind of there. It doesn't really... It just kind of happens, Um, I don't know. I think they could have did her build up a little bit better. She is kind of there. It's kind of like the auction story in the original movie. It's just kind of there. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Not saying that as a bad thing. The auction story is built way better than the female in this movie. But like I said, it's still not a bad thing. It's still a great scene of her attacking. Then we get that night scene with her attacking the soldiers on the bridge, which is another great effects scene. She destroyed some of the soldiers who went through. The train goes through. She wants to nuke. She seems like one of the trees. She's so quiet. It's scary for this big 300-foot titan as she crawls under the bridge and such to get to them. She almost eats Ford and them, And then she goes through and destroys the train, sends it at him. And the soldier that's with him dies, and he jumps off into the water. And that's kind of where that leaves off, And she kind of eats the nuke and goes, and we find out she's pregnant too, which is interesting. And especially since she's a mammal, a lot of people might not know that, might think they're bugs, but they're confirmed to be like mammals. I know I'm kind of quickly going over some of these scenes, but I'm like, there's a lot I could really definitely go in depth with. I could probably do a couple hour long video, but this is a podcast. So, even in the beginning, I kind of skipped some of the great scenes, like the intro, the amazing intro of music that gets the mood built immediately, and we see Godzilla right at the beginning of the movie, and the Philippines shot, but, that's okay. Those were all great scenes, too, but we start getting into this stuff, they're heading back to the city. They got Ford, he's still kind of hurt. He asks where they're taking the bomb and stuff. He gets on the phone with his wife and them. This is when the family splits in 3 different ways. Ford's with the military. His wife goes to the evacuation point in the building, and his son's on a bus going to Gate Bridge, which leads to like 3 separate issues. They're 3 family members apart, and they all get entangled in this conflict in some way or another. Because as the scene builds up, Godzilla makes it to the Golden Gate Bridge, destroys it because he kind of gets forced to. He gets up. He's not really for sure why he got up right there, but he gets up for some reason, and an amazing shot scene with great music and stuff. Which the music you can't even get on the album, but you can still listen to it if you actually, there's ways you can find the unrecorded music. And this is where we see some of his weak points, The military doesn't, when they're shooting him, it doesn't really hurt him. And then they hit him in the gills, and it forces him to go through Golden Gate Bridge and kill more innocent people, which makes you really question, But it's more like we're ants to him, and we're not that important, and he just wants to complete his mission, He doesn't want to directly take people's lives, but, it's not that he wouldn't be willing to. We see Miyamoto come in and take the nuke from a boat that is going to be timer activated, and he meets up with female Muto, and we see the massive size difference as he gives it to her as a gift, and they become mates. And she begins digging a hole to lay her eggs. Miyamoto begins protecting the city, and Godzilla arrives, and this big epic, the fight begins day, I guess you could say. As they start heading to the thing, the Muto and Godzilla begin to fight, and it cuts off. A lot of people get really mad about this cutoff, but to me, I really don't understand why. Because it's like within the next 5 minutes, if that, the final battle begins. It's a great scene where it's not, to me, it's not as bad as the airport one. It kind of cuts off, they're going to fight, and we get one of the best scenes in cinematic history. I don't even know if I really need to talk about this scene. It's like, you all know about the Halo jump scene. Whether you've seen the movie or not, you probably know about it. Use 2001 Space Odyssey music. They jump out of the plane with the flares on their feet. the top layer seems like heaven, a middle ground that seems like Earth, and then Earth seems a lot darker than the top one, which is really bright. And when they get in the city, there's just flames everywhere. It's dark, it's gloomy, it's apocalyptic. It seems like hell. It seems like 3 levels, like heaven. So, I don't even need to talk about scene. It's just such a well shot scene. It's so cool to hear how he's just listening to music on his MP3 player, and the Space Odyssey music came on. He's like, "That's the music," Gareth Edwards and stuff. And it's just a great scene. You guys heard this scene probably praised more than any other scene, so you guys know what it is. You've seen it was in every trailer, poster. So it's just a great scene in general. And it leads into them going through the city, start looking for the bomb as they get in between of the mash as Godzilla gives his extended roar, which is such a great scene as well. As he spins around through the smoke, and you just hear simple piano keys to do his introduction as he roars. And then the female Muto and Godzilla head towards each other. They collide. Cuts off for a quick moment as the humans find the nuke, and this quickly will come to affect the final battle very quickly. So this scene's very important to have here. Then we get this extremely long shot. I'm not even gonna say it 1,000 times. The music in the final battle is amazing, especially 2 against 1. Best track, one of the best tracks in the movie. Everything about this is great. Godzilla feels like a god when he's 1v1ing these. He's so good at it. It's shot so well. You could say what you want about it being dark, but like if you get the right version, it's really clear and it looks great. Like you shouldn't have to, but I'm saying if you do, it looks great, and the filmmakers did great. It's great as Godzilla fights the Mutos, and you see how it affects the humans and stuff in the buildings and stuff. And she's destroying the female, and then he gets tag team, and that starts hurting him and stuff. Cuts to the humans again getting the nuke and pulling it out, and we go back to the Mutos beating Godzilla down really bad. Not as long of a shot, but it's still a decently long shot. Just to immediately lead in the Ford Brody blowing up the nest, which lasts like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something. Like, it doesn't distract from the monsters very long. And the Mutos leave Godzilla alone as they come to investigate, and she ends up going to kill Ford whenever we get one of the best scenes ever in a Godzilla film, where we see the blue, the tail lights up, vroom, vroom, vroom. One by one, you see each spike lighting up on the tail, heading up his back. The female Rose stands there, confused, frightened. She's never seen this before. She doesn't know what he's about to do, unless it's like an instinctual thing. And we know from the books and the comic books, and even just simply watching the 2019 King of the Monsters film, that his beam's not going to be as strong as film stuff, but he shoots it. Beautiful shot. 2 against 1's playing. It sounds so good as he's shooting his beam, and he's knocking the female Muto back against the wall. One of the best atomic breath scenes ever. He comes back, he shoots it again as the humans are running away from the nest with the nuke. And man, it's so great. And she knocks him out, or he knocks her out for the count for a little bit, as then the male comes to like attack him, and Ford gets away with like a broken leg from the explosion and stuff. And and so yeah, Godzilla and the male have a 1v1 that's kind of in the background for a little bit. But I mean, it doesn't, like, we go back to the humans again, run towards the bay, but it really doesn't take away that long, I know a lot of people complain, say that the cutaways are still horrible, and they're like, some people say the cutaways are worse in 2014 than King of the Monsters in terms of the final battle. It's really not. If I ever get to talk about King of the Monsters on Honest Thoughts, you'll hear me gripe about that, because at least in this film, the humans taken away from the monsters, it's important. It really does affect the battle. And they're running towards the bay and stuff, and the female Muto wakes up and comes charging towards them. And that's when we see that the humans' actions, taking the nuke, blowing up the nest, killing the babies and saving the world, and then running away with the bomb, completely removes the female from the fight. It's important that all these events happen, and there was cutaways to show the humans doing it. So you're telling me that, like, if they just didn't show this and just, oh, the female's running, oh, the people have the nuke, oh, why? That would not make sense. They had to have, these were necessary cutaways for a great story plot detail and to get the female Muto out of the equation. We cut back to a very long scene of the final fight of the male and Godzilla 1v1ing, which looks great. We see Godzilla studying, and that's when he moves swiftly and smacks him with more great music, by the way. And one of the best scenes in the movie that if you see it with the right version again, you see the sound barrier break as Godzilla learns the male Muto's patterns and smacks him in the building with his tail, and the male Muto dies from the power of the impact because of Godzilla's tail and such. And Muto's dead, and Godzilla takes a breather. He's been fighting for a long period of time. I think at least an hour at this point. If you go back through the film and you look at the bomb's countdown from when it begins to when it ends, Godzilla's been fighting for at least an hour straight, because he immediately fights male Muto, he's definitely out of breath. Sorry. And, the building falls on him, and the building that's like 3 times bigger than Godzilla knocks him over, understandably, knocks him on the ground. He's kind of tired from fighting for an hour straight against creatures evolved to kill him. And here's a great scene of the crippled Ford Brody with his leg broken, trying to get back towards the other soldiers. Happen to be there by Godzilla when he falls, and they both kind of stare at each other for a moment as Godzilla fades away in the dark. And you don't know with this scene if Godzilla's dead or what. Obviously, it was pretty obvious he wouldn't be, but Ford runs back towards the bay where we see all the soldiers fighting the female to the best of their ability, knowing they will die. They knew they were going to die. I mean, they already knew, and they just went on ahead and they, like, sacrificed themselves or something to try to fight the female as best they could. And one by one, the female just killed them. She ate some of them. She just destroyed the bay with some of them and stuff. They just kept fighting. And honestly, I think it's a really beautiful shot where, like, these soldiers have to know it's futile, yet they choose to continue the fight anyways. And, I personally think it's such a great scene. And, Ford gets on the boat. He can't deactivate it or whatever, so, like, he thought he could, so he gets the boat. I think it's because it's stuck or something. He gets the boat to go away, but the EMP stops the boat from moving, but the bomb doesn't stop. And, the female comes in. You think she's about to eat him, and, that's when just she freezes. And we get one of the best scenes in history. If you don't know this scene, don't know how. Godzilla bites her, paralyzes her. She goes to bite his hand. If you look closely, she bites his hand. And just her biting his hand leads into her demise. She grabs her, puts her up in the air, splits her jaw open, and spits the atomic breath down her throat and rips her her head right off her skull, or her spine, decapitates her, and then gives his victory roar. Ford ends up getting away as the boat turns on, and the nuke goes away from the city, and Godzilla, at the same time as Ford, they both collapse, which is very, it's definitely beautiful, how Godzilla and Ford collapse at the same time, because they're both the heroes of the story. Without Ford, the nest wouldn't have been destroyed. And then, not say Godzilla wouldn't have destroyed everyone, and it wouldn't have helped got the female out of the equation at all, It definitely wouldn't have got the female out of the equation without Ford, which is very important it makes Ford's character very important. And, they all go away, and the humans save Ford. We see this beautiful shot in the background of the nuke blow up. Ford was able to save the city. Logically, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but, it's still a great scene of Ford getting the boat away. And it's possible, like a lot of people thought, that Godzilla might have absorbed some of the radiation and such. Godzilla does end up somehow deeper in the city, which is always kind of an interesting thing to me. But, he's sleeping. Ford with a broken leg and all, finally gets reunited with his family. He has a son, reunites his wife, and in that beautiful scene, they all connect emotionally. And everyone watches as Godzilla wakes up, walks away from the city, gives his roar, and the film ends with him going into the water, swimming away in peace. And that was Godzilla 2014. I mean, I have such a time limit right now, but to me, this film is amazing. One of the best films I've seen, in a long time. One of my favorite Godzilla films. I think it's well directed, well scored. The cinematography is great. I think pretty much all the acting's great. Obviously, there's some scenes here and there where, I guess he could have did better, but I think Ford, Aaron Taylor Johnson did a great job for the most part with this character. I thought he had some really well-acted scenes. He wasn't just a complete robot. I know there was moments where it's okay, he probably could have acted a little different. But I mean, like I said, the stuff with him and Joe Brody did amazing. And I'm actually fine with Joe Brody not being the main character in the movie. I think it added to it because they completed his story arc very early on. He was not important to the story anymore. He got out of it and left the thing open for Ford to become more of an emotional character, because now, with his dad's words, he had to fight to not suffer the same fate. And the end of the story, he ended up making it so he did not suffer the same fate where his family got destroyed once again, like it did many years ago. And he was not the father that caused that. This time he saved his family. Everything's back at peace. This movie, like I said, it's amazing. Introduced one of my favorite Godzillas. I love the legendary Godzilla. I love the 2014 design the most so far in the Monsterverse. Although I love King of Monsters beams and stuff more. The roar, so powerful, impactful. This movie has so much weight, great effects. Everything about this movie was just so good in my opinion. I personally really like it. I didn't think it was a slow burn either. There's a few scenes that probably could have went on a little bit quicker. Maybe cut some time off film. But I thought the film moved fairly quickly, because there was always big monster action sequences at some points in the movie, because whether people like to admit it or not, the mutants were the main monster stars. And you know what? People might hate that because the main star character, the title card character wasn't. But I mean, look at a lot of the past Godzilla movies, especially Showa. I went through and watched Terramech Godzilla. I'm going to go back to right where I started at the beginning of the video. How was this movie so similar to Terramech Godzilla, you might ask? Godzilla doesn't even appear until an hour in, and he just shows up out of nowhere. And the focus is Mechagodzilla Titanosaurus the whole movie. Godzilla's in there, he shows up, has a quick sequence that cuts off really quick, and then Godzilla's gone for a while, I don't even remember if he's really mentioned. Then he comes back in just for the final battle, which is a lengthy, drawn-out battle, and that's the movie. He goes and swims off in peace. It's to me, Terramech Godzilla is one of the closest films I can relate with this film in terms of how the formula is set up with Godzilla himself. And personally, I think this film did it very well. I love Godzilla 2014. You don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me. Again, this whole video is off script. There was many beats I probably missed. And this is a video I was thinking about doing. This might be good enough for the 8K special, because, man, I went 60, 70 minutes on that or something. And I probably could have went more. And that's how much I love 2014. I think I own 3 different versions. I own a 3D version. I own the FYE Steelbook. I was going to buy the Walmart exclusive one, now that I think about it, that came out, where you got the King of the Monsters tickets, but I ended up getting one of those, but it wasn't for me, it was for my girlfriend, and I bought her the DVD one, and, because she usually can she has more stuff to watch DVD than Blu-ray. Definitely like to still get one of those cover. They're really cool. And there's a chance too that I'm still gonna get the collector's edition that came with the Red Godzilla, basically the early form of Burning Godzilla. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm proud of this movie. I think it accomplished everything it needed to do. Brought the fan base back together. Brought a whole new wave of fans in, whether you love them or hate them. And opened up this new kaiju era with some great films. King Kong is now getting a crossover. We have an amazing Godzilla. He's in the PS4 video game. Personally, all that said, I love Godzilla 2014. You can call me biased or what, but there's a reason I love it. I think it's such a well-made movie that's really underrated and really underappreciated, just because a lot of people, for some reason, have this gripe where they need action and stuff. And some people say they personally don't like the acting and story. You know what? This is all fine. It all comes down to opinion. My opinion, this film is really well scored, really well made with effects and the photography, amazing action sequences, great final battle. Not Kong Skull Island final battle, but still great final battle. Great build up to it, great monsters, great story, great acting, everything about this film I love. And you can disagree with me. I would love to hear you guys disagree with me. We can talk about it. You know, I've had many people disagree with my opinion. I think I'm crazy for not calling King of the Monsters my absolute favorite. But at the end of the day, I personally think these are some of the reasons I think 2014 is such a great film. Just breaking it down from start to finish and off script. Just off the top of my head, you know, I missed certain beats. And if I did a long drawn-out script study, who knows what I could say. I think this was more than enough, though. And I really appreciate you guys listening and taking time out of your day to listen to this and hear what I had to say about this movie. This film is very important to me. It's one of my favorite movies, and I'm so glad that I live in a time where this film came out and the Monsterverse is what based on. I'd like to hear your opinions on the film too, and if any of my words have changed any of your thoughts or anything about this film. And just, again, thank you guys for your time. And thank you again for listening to this podcast. I know, brand new concept, you guys. I want to hear if you guys love it or hate it or not. Just let me know. And yeah, if you guys really did enjoy this video, you know, thank you, please. Share, subscribe. I'm High Flyer Tag Team on YouTube. And thank you once again. And if you enjoyed, thank you. And see you in the next one.